Hello, welcome to Beyond Monrovia. This is a podcast where we have the real conversation about the issues that shape our Liberian society. Whether you're living in Monrovia or somewhere in the counties or the diaspora, I want to welcome you to Beyond Monrovia. I am your host, Festus McKean, and I want to start this very first episode by telling you who I am and what I stand for. Because on this show, you will always know where I stand. Now, let's get this straight. This is not the view or opinion of KGM Studio. It is my opinion and my view. I believe in religious freedom. I believe no one, including me, has the right to impose their beliefs on another person, and I respect everyone's beliefs. And I expect the same respect in return from everyone. Now, I stand for diversity, inclusion, and equality. I believe in comprehensive sexual education in our schools. I speak strongly against the gender-based violence. I believe in the empowerment of women and girls and their right to education, to health, to leadership, and to equal opportunity at every level of our society. And I believe that if a 12-year-old girl is sexually violated by a family member and becomes pregnant as a result, that pregnancy should be terminated. I believe that if a pregnancy threatens a woman's life, that pregnancy should be aborted to save her life. These are not radical response. They are humans' position. I say all this upfront because today's topic goes to the heart of these values. We are talking about Liberia's draft public health bill, the controversy surrounding the Strengthening Family Conference, and some very troubling behavior from one of our very own religious leaders. Let's get into it. Well, there has been so much noise around this draft public health bill, but very few people are actually talking about what is in it. Let me break it down for you. Specifically, Chapter 49, Section 49.6, the abortion provision that has become the center of controversy. Here is what the bill says in plain language. The bill says that within the first 18 weeks of pregnancy, a licensed medical practitioner is justified in performing an abortion as long as the pregnant person gives informed consent. Pre-abortion counseling is provided, and the procedure is done in a medically safe environment. Now, beyond 18 weeks, abortion is justified if the practitioner believes the pregnancy poses a substantial risk to the physical and psychological health of the mother. If the baby will be born with severe fetal abnormalities, or if the pregnancy resulted from rape, incest, or any unlawful sexual intercourse with a girl under 18 or any woman. Let me say that again. The bill specifically protects girls and women who are victims of rape and incest. It protects women whose lives are at risk, and it protects the mental health of women, of pregnant women. You see, this is something a lot of people, especially religious institutions, cannot come up and agree to. Political leaders, religious leaders cannot come up and speak to this and say, yes, they accept this. I'm not going to mention any religious institution or political leader. You understand? Let it be on them to come up and say what is written in this bill, this draft public health bill, is wrong. Let them say, let any religious institution come up and say that if a 12, that they, not forget about the 12-year-old girl. Let any religious institution come up and say that they believe in incest. That is part of their religious doctrine. Or they believe in rape. They practice incest, they practice rape. They condone that within their religious belief. that if a woman or a girl gets impregnated through any of those means, that pregnancy should be kept. You religious leader, you political leader, you should tell me, please tell me this, that as a politician, if your daughter gets raped, your underage daughter, your daughter below 18 gets raped by your brother, you are telling me that your daughter should keep such a pregnancy, right? You religious leader, whether you're a pastor or an apostle or priest or an imam, you are telling me that you are against, right, an abortion that threatens the life of your daughter, your wife, whether they were raped or they got impregnated through incest. You should come up and say that. I'm not going to call any religious institution name or political institution or politician name. I want us to get this straight. This draft public health bill is not a radical bill. This is a compassionate bill, and it also guarantees post-abortion care, including psychological support and family planning services, and protects the confidentiality of anyone who seeks these services. Now, the bill does not legalize abortion on demand with no limits. It is actually quite structured if you read the bill. Now, but people don't want to read the bill because the bill has over 300 pages. That is sickening. The bill requires medical certification, counseling, consent, and proper medical facilities. This is a responsible legislation. This is a responsible legislation. Now, let's talk about this upcoming Strengthening Families Conference. This conference is organized by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and is scheduled to happen on June the 19th and the 20th, 2026 in Liberia. I want to be clear because I've had conversation with some organizers of the conference and some members of the Latter-day Saints Church. I'm not against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. No, I'm not. Though this is an institution, I don't know if it's a religious institution or a foreign agency. And if it is, I want to know, how is it operating in Liberia? Is the Latter-day Saints Church a member of the Liberian Council of Churches? I want to know from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, how is the Latter-day Saints Church registered and operating in Liberia? Now, to the Latter-day Saints Church, are you for or against the chapter 49 and section 49.6 of this draft public health bill? Can you speak to that? This is one problem I have with the Latter-day Saints Church. They never speak to the media. They never have the face to speak to the media and have a conversation about some of these things. That is my problem with them. But when it comes to religious freedom, I stand for that. You understand? I believe in religious freedom. And that includes a freedom to organize conferences and promote their values. The conference itself has been held in Nigeria, in Ghana, and in Sierra Leone. What am I concerned about? And what the Inter-Religious Council of Liberia also raised is whether this conference truly reflects the diversity and lived realities of Liberian families. Liberian families are shaped by civil war, poverty, displacement, single parenthood, child-headed homes, and extended family networks. Any conversation about strengthening our families in Liberia must reckon honestly with those values, including maternal mortality, teenage pregnancy, gender-based violence, and limited access to health care. That's it. And this is important, very important. The Inter-Religious Council handling of this situation deserves serious scrutiny. Serious scrutiny. And this is where I'm going to call me. You understand? I have to be honest with you. You understand? Because that's what this podcast is about. I am honestly disappointed, deeply disappointed in the Inter-Religious Council of Liberia, and particularly in the Secretary General, Reverend Toe. Reverend Toe, I am disappointed in you. You owe me nothing. You owe me nothing, right? You owe me nothing. But this is why I'm disappointed in you. You see, the Inter-Religious Council released a statement on the 3rd of June, 2026, publicly distancing themselves from the Strengthening Families Conference. You understand? You, Reverend Toe, You read the press statement on June 3rd. I was seated just a few feet away from you when you read that statement. The Inter-Religious Council distanced itself from the Strengthening Families Conference. You raised legitimate concerns. Your concerns were very much legitimate. You said the Inter-Religious Council had not been meaningfully consulted in the planning of the Strengthening Families Conference. You were worried the conference promoted a narrow definitions of family, and you called for the passage of the public health bill. The same draft public health bill that I'm talking about, Reverend Toe, you called for the passage of this draft public health bill. So now, my question to you, Reverend Toe, are you for or against this draft public health bill, especially Chapter 49, Section 49.6? Are you for or against? Reverend Toe, can you openly speak to that? Can you? Are you for or against? Reverend Toe, do you support rape of women and underage girls? Reverend Toe, do you support incest? When you stand at your pulpit to preach, when you speak to your members, tell me, this is a question, a very sincere question. Do you support incest? Do you support rape? That's just a question from me to you. And I will be glad, you see, if you can answer that. You see, Reverend Toe, when you spoke for the Inter-Religious Council and you were speaking against this upcoming Strengthening Family Conference, you said the Inter-Religious Council were not meaningfully consulted, and in the planning of the conference. You said you were worried the conference was promoting narrow definitions of family, and you called for the passage of the draft public health bill. Pam. That's a very principled position. I respect that. I respect it. But then in less than a week, Reverend Toe, in less than a week, you somersaulted. You somersaulted to my disbelief, Reverend Toe. You were now speaking on June 11 in favor of this conference. A very complete reversal, Reverend Toe. And it raises serious questions. Now, Reverend Toe, was the original statement made on June 3rd without consensus from the full council, from the full Inter-Religious Council? Reverend Toe, were you pressured to change position? Your June 3rd position, were you pressured to change it on June 11? Did someone intervene? And if so, who and why, Reverend Toe? Why? You see, the Liberian people deserve answers. Our religious leaders are not just spiritual figures. They carry significant moral and social authority in our country. When they speak, communities listen. When they flip their position, what happens? Without explanation, it undermines trust. This is what happened in Reverend Toe. You have undermined trust. Trust young people like me had in you. It creates confusion, and it raises question of whether their public statement reflects genuine conviction or something else entirely. Reverend Toe and the Inter-Religious Council, you owe Liberians a clear, a very transparent explanation on what changed between June 3rd and June 11th. Who changed it and why? What is the motive? Why for one small conference, there's a lot of flip-flop? Can you speak to that, Reverend Toe? I will be glad if you can. I want to know that. And can the Latter-day Church and organizers of this Strengthening Family Conference speak to this conference, speak to this matter? I really need you to speak to this matter. I don't know if you invite me over to cover your conference. I don't know that. I'm not asking that. But if you can grant me the opportunity for us to have an open conversation surrounding matters of this draft public health bill, to know the position of the organizers of this conference, to know the position of the Latter-day Church, it would be very helpful. Let Liberian people understand where the Latter-day Church stands when it comes to this matter. You understand? Let me bring this back to what matters most. The people this draft public health bill is meant to protect. There is a 12-year-old girl somewhere in Liberia right now as we speak who has been abused by a family member. There is a mother whose pregnancy is endangering her life. There is a young woman who was raped and is now pregnant. These are not hypothetical situations. They are happening every day across our country. So the draft public health bill, as imperfect as it is, attempts to protect these women and girls. It attempts to bring our health laws into the 21st century. It recognizes that, you cannot strengthen Liberian families while ignoring the health, safety, and dignity of the women and girls those families depend on. I support comprehensive sexual education in our schools so that our children grow up with accurate information, not silence and shame. I support equal opportunity for women and girls in leadership, in education, in every sphere of the Liberian society. And I support the passage of the draft public health bill. Not because I'm against religion, no, but because I believe in the dignity and safety of every Liberian woman and girl. Now, before I close, I want to leave you with some questions to think about. Should religious institutions have the power to block health legislation that could save women's lives? Where is the line between moral leadership and political interference? What do we owe to the 12-year-old girl who becomes pregnant through abuse? To the woman whose pregnancy threatens her life? Do our laws protect them or abandon them? What does it mean when a religious leader publicly reverses a position in less than a week? Who holds our faith leaders accountable? And what does genuine family strengthening look like in Liberia? One that includes all Liberian families in all their diversities and complexity. These are the conversations Beyond Monrovia exists to have. This is episode 1 of Beyond Monrovia, and thank you for listening. These are not easy conversations, but they are very necessary ones for our families, our communities, and our beloved country, Mama Liberia. If this episode moved you, challenged you, or made you think, please share it, talk about it, send it to a friend back home or in the diaspora, and let me know your thoughts in our comment section on Facebook, on YouTube, and even on Spotify. Because the future of Liberia is built by Liberians, or Liberians who are informed, Liberians who are engaged, Liberians who are willing to speak the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Until next time, stay grounded, stay informed, stay Liberian. I love you. This has been episode 1 of Beyond Monrovia. My name is Festus Makine and I'm your host. See you.